Welcome to Southie Sessions, a podcast presented by Alison South Marketing and hosted by me, Emily Ann Lively. Here at Alison South, we ring a cowbell to celebrate our successes, whether big or small. On this show, we'll be celebrating successes with ink slingers, idea bringers, scribblers, and strategists from the Augusta area and beyond. We'll get to hear their started from the kitchen table stories and learn why they ring the cowbell. Welcome back to another episode of Southie Sessions. I'm your host, Emily Ann Lively, and I'm very fortunate that through Alison South, I've gotten to partner with and work alongside today's guest. Not only is he the president and CEO of the Columbia County Chamber of Commerce, but he's also a professional photographer and a pretty great podcast host himself.
Something. I don't know about great, but...
And a hockey goalie in a former life. Just throwing that in there.
Yep.
Not going to expand on that. Please welcome Russell Lahodny.
Thank
you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is great.
And for beating me here to the recording and getting here early and showing us all up. So
Overachiever. One day out of the year.
Oh, okay. Today's the day.
Today's the day. Yep.
So you became the president and CEO, correct me if I'm wrong, of the Columbia County Chamber in 2020. Correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
During a pandemic.
And
you're not even from Georgia or Evans or anything close to that.
Nowhere close.
Kind of walk me through that. I mean, you took a new job, but you moved your whole family across the U.S. So kind of tell me about that transition.
So how long is this podcast, right?
I know.
That was an experience that will probably be unrivaled in my lifetime. And I hope it's unrivaled in my lifetime, quite frankly. So kind of backstory, like you were alluding.
Right.
Born and raised Californian.
Where in California?
So all over.
Okay.
I was born in Southern California, Panorama City, San Fernando Valley kind of area.
Cool.
And then, fifth grade, I moved up to a small town in eastern central part of California called Bishop.
Okay.
Most people don't know about it unless they're a skier and they go to Mammoth Mountain. Then people know it.
Are you a skier?
Snowboarder.
Snowboarder.
I'm a reformed skier and now a snowboarder.
Love it. Well, we don't have a lot of that around here, so.
No, I'm learning.
Yes.
I'm learning.
It's just ice.
Yes. Yes. I grew up in that small town and loved it. Lived on the mountain most of the weekends out of the year.
So cool.
We had a great owner. So back when I lived there, it was privately owned by Dave McCoy. And he was invested in it and in the community. And so if you were a student and you showed your student body card, you could ski for $1.
What?
Your lift ticket was $1. The caveat was it had to be on a weekend or a school holiday. So you couldn't skip school to go skiing.
They rigged that one pretty well.
But it was brilliant on their part. They hook you to the sport and then you're not going to just give it up.
Right.
So once you graduate, you're paying full fare now.
God.
Or instant employee.
Right.
Because
you're
you want
a ski lift operator.
That's right. That's right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
I worked at the mountain for probably 5 years after I graduated high school, just so I could get my free ski pass.
Yeah.
Learned a lesson there that actually, once you start working there, then you're like, I don't want to be there on my day off. So I never really used the pass once I started working there, but
That's awesome.
So lived there for years. Then I went to college junior college in the Central Valley in the Fresno area, a little town called Visalia.
Okay.
Graduated from there with my associate degree and then headed back down to Southern California, Orange County area. I lived in Fullerton, went to Cal State Fullerton. Go Titans. We're not known for anything but baseball. So.
Okay.
And then
baseball. I'm into baseball right now.
I think we've got 6 titles now.
What?
So but we don't have a football team.
Right.
So I feel kind of out of place in the South because everybody's got their team, and I'm like, I got no dog in this fight.
Yeah, I'm neutral.
Yeah,
go Braves.
That's right.
Go whoever.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah. So So then, I was down in Orange County for 16 years.
Wow. Okay.
So I started my chamber career in Orange County. I started for the Irvine Chamber of Commerce. I was there for 7 years.
Wow.
Doing communications.
Okay.
And then moved up to the Anaheim Chamber of Commerce, where I was there for another 5 years. I was the senior vice president of communications there.
Wow.
And then moved up to the California Chamber of Commerce. So our last stint in our location in California was in the Sacramento area.
Okay.
And we lived there for another 6 years roughly. All in the chamber industry, loving what I do, and then this opportunity kind of came up. I knew the recruiter, and just kind of, like you said, the pandemic had hit. The California Chamber was kind of, going through some restructuring to kind of, make sure that we were solvent through the pandemic, and rightly so, as most companies kind of had to do. But there was just an opportunity that, we were expecting our third child, and, this opportunity.
I forgot that Kimberly was pregnant at the same time as well. So that's
another wrinkle in the story.
Wow.
But this opportunity came up, and it was a great opportunity. My boss was super supportive. And, like I said, I've been in the industry long enough, and it was about time to make that step.
Right.
And so here we are. We made that trek. I would not recommend it. During a pandemic, during, a pregnancy, during all those things. But, we all survived. We're all here and enjoying it.
And we're happy to have you here, first of all.
Thank you.
And we love Kimberly, your wife. She's the best.
She's special.
Yes. But not only are you, taking a job during a pandemic and having a baby and moving across the country, but especially in your role in the chamber, that's such an integral part of the economy and keeping businesses going, especially during that time. I mean, what was that like? That's got to be so much pressure on you to kind of see businesses thrive despite going through so much hardship.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. I mean, coming from California, where it was a much different reaction to the pandemic.
Right.
The reaction was, let's shut everything down. It was really refreshing coming here, where everyone's just kind of like, it's open.
Right.
I mean, even when we were out here interviewing and going through the process, it was really weird, because it was like, we're going everywhere. We've got masks in hand, and everyone else is like not wearing masks. And It's like, okay, I can get on board with this,
right.
But it just the difference between the two states and how they kind of, their approach to, and I'm not saying one's right or wrong. It's just, the difference. And we kind of enjoyed that a little bit more freedom. And I think the business community has kind of fared a lot better because of that. The leadership here, the Governor Kemp has done an outstanding job from my perspective, at least keeping the business community open. And that's been huge.
As far as communication efforts, I know obviously you shifted into the president CEO role, so you had to you're still doing communication, but you're not as heavily involved. Did the chamber have to kind of reevaluate what they were doing to communicate and network? I mean, networking is such a huge part of what you do, but with a pandemic, you kind of have to decide, are we doing this in person or 6 feet apart, or what does this kind of look like?
Excuse me. Yeah, there was a shift, and industry wide. It's not just been here in Columbia County or at the Augusta Metro Chamber. I mean, nationwide. And I'll be honest, there are some chambers that still aren't doing in-person events because of, for whatever reason, they might be in a community that's maybe a little bit more at risk or something of that nature. But our perspective and our approach is, we're going to do, what's best for our business community, know, and what that is, and what you're comfortable with is totally up to you. And that's fine. but there are people that want to get together and they want to, network and they want to, do all these things. So
Right.
we're going to do our best to balance it. And, we've been pretty successful, I think, so far, kind of managing that whole thing. And, we've had a couple major events and most of the people have been, this is great. I'm tired
Happy
of
to
the
be
Zoom.
out.
Yeah. I'm tired of the Zoom calls. I'm tired of this. And it's
Yeah.
just like being able to provide a venue for people to get out. That's what it's about, really. I mean, we're about connecting people and it's hard to connect people digitally,
Right. I do
being-
think there's been a shift, though, and you're a prime example of that in kind of the podcasting world, too. I mean,
Yeah.
you've been able to connect with so many people and kind of keep a narrative going through your
Absolutely.
podcast, which
Yeah.
has been awesome. So tell us about that, too. I want to hear about it.
So yeah, part of when I started the job, I kind of had committed to the board that, the first 100 days I was going to have 100 meetings. And so, yeah, it was a little aggressive.
Where did that goal come from?
So I've been in the chamber industry nearly 20 years, and the last stint I was working at an association too. So I was at the California Chamber, but we also headed up the Western Association for Chamber Executives. And I had kind of been in that world and had talked to other executives who were new to the position and new to areas that they, had moved into. And each of them had kind of had a similar thing where it was like, okay, when I go in, I'm going to make it a goal to meet with 100 people in 100 days. And it's a way to kind of get you out into the community, and having that goal kind of helps drive it so that you don't get stuck in the office.
Right.
Because you can get stuck in the office doing paperwork all day long.
Yes.
Or, answering emails or this and that. But it's like, it's a way to force you to get out into the community and meet the important people in the community. So I kind of had that goal, and it's been great. I fell a couple,
did you meet the
I
goal?
fell a couple people short, but I'll take the excuse that the pandemic has allowed. I had multiple meetings that ended up having to get canceled or something
Right.
because somebody was exposed and so we had
I
to
think you
cancel
get a
something.
pass on
So
that.
yeah, I thank you. Yes. But I came close. I was in the 90s, I think mid 90s,
That's
so
insane.
it was pretty
Congrats.
insane considering,
That's awesome.
considering the circumstances.
Yeah,
I call it a victory.
that's a victory. That's a
'cause
lot of people.
There was a certain point where I was afraid I wasn't going to come even close.
Right.
Because I was getting meetings canceled or postponed or pushed back or whatever. So we made it.
That's
we made
awesome.
It
Are
close.
these just individials? They're not members, or
It was a little bit of a mix of
Everyone.
everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. It was, some of our religious leaders. It was, members. It was some of our chairman circle members. I mean, it ran the gamut. It
That's
really
awesome.
did. But, and I wanted it to be a mix because I wanted to hear from everybody. What are the challenges? I mean, those were some of the questions that I was asking. What are your biggest challenges? And, unfortunately we ran into a time frame where everybody had the same challenge. So I knew what the answer was going to be.
right,
And that was finding workforce.
right,
But
and that's still a challenge
it
as
is,
well.
it is. And it's not going away anytime soon.
Yeah,
But
and mixing in the what's the word where everything's taking forever to get here.
yeah, well, the supply chain.
Yeah, supply chain. Wow, I have not had enough coffee today. Supply chain
totally
and
understand.
workforce is just not going away.
No, and those are going to be, I feel like the supply chain issue with some good leadership could be a little bit better.
Right.
But the workforce issue is going to take, I think, a longer term to really iron out where's the disconnect, where are the
Yes.
employees. And I have some theories, but, they're
Yeah.
theories.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
We don't have to get into all that
No.
today. We'll listen to your podcast and find out more when you
Yes.
talk about it on there. So
There
tell
you
us,
go.
it's called
So it's
ROI.
ROI, range of influence.
Great name.
Yeah,
Love
it was, and that was part of it too. We wanted to talk to the influencers in the community and really kind of discuss and see what makes them tick, what influences them. And, it's been a great way for me to, again, kind of on that track of doing 100 meetings in 100 days. It's another avenue for me to bring people from the community in and for me to get to know them,
And it's not just limited to the Evans area, right?
No,
it's kind of all over the CSRA.
We're doing all over the CSRA. We're doing,
awesome.
We just recently had Colonel Pick and Dr. Tom Clark, obviously both very heavily connected to Fort Gordon.
Right.
Great conversation. One of my favorite episodes.
It was
so
a great
far.
episode.
We just had fun just sitting there talking. And we talked about some heavy stuff too. But
it's good for the community to hear that narrative and understand what's going on. Who's your co-host?
Reagan Williams.
Okay.
So he's with Maybaum. He's currently our immediate past chair. So he was the chair when I was hired. So he was kind of like my connection when I got hired. He was the person that I kind of dealt with. And when I came in and through the interview process, he kind of kept needling me. He's like, "Are we going to do a podcast? Are we going to do a podcast?" And I was like, "Let's do a podcast." So
that's awesome.
So
he's got a good personality too,
does.
And the two of y'all together have great camaraderie.
Yeah, and I think it's great too because, obviously me being the newcomer, I know so much. I know as much as I read or as much as I find from conversations. But having Reagan, who's been here a lot longer than I have, can come in and fill in kind of some of the details. So when we're interviewing people, he's got the perspective of more of a local,
right?
And I've got the outsider, so I get to ask the awkward, dumb questions.
Who's this new guy?
Yeah,
why
right.
doesn't he know?
Yeah, so it's been good. We've had I think we're on 13 episodes now. I think roughly, but
and it's on all streaming platforms.
Yep.
Okay,
anywhere you listen to a podcast, you can find us. So.
That's awesome. So do you think it also kind of scratches your creative itch too? Because I know you're a photojournalist at heart.
That's right.
Where did you get your start in that? Back when you were...
Yeah. So back when I was living in Bishop.
Okay.
So another way people might be familiar with Bishop is if you're a fan of Ansel Adams, you've seen the Owens Valley.
Yes.
You've seen that perspective from the Bishop kind of area. He does an outstanding job, obviously kind of capturing the beauty of what is the Eastern Sierra.
Right.
And I grew up, like I said, I would walk out my front door and I would look at these landscapes that Ansel Adams so famously photographed years and years ago. And so I got a love for photography there. I was on Yearbook, did the whole geek, kind of path.
There is nothing wrong with Yearbook, okay?
But I enjoyed it.
Awesome.
I was we went through the whole photography stuff through Yearbook. And then when I graduated from high school, I kind of just kept it going a little bit and got into junior college. So, a little backstory on my education path. I wanted to be an architect.
No way.
Yeah. So I went through drafting all through high school in our 0 period class and loved it and wanted to pursue that, and then got into junior college and started that course. And it was like, all right, there's a lot of math involved in drafting and architecture. And it's not what I want to do all the time.
Yeah.
So, and that's, the great thing about junior college is you can, find out what you don't want to do at a much lower cost than going to a 4-year college and going, oh, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to change, and then
I'm in debt.
Yes.
Yes.
So I found that out, and they had a kind of an industry and technology track where they had just purchased a bunch of brand new video editing software. And so I was one of the guinea pigs for the very first class. And I got in there, and again, I had the photography background, and I was like, well, let's just try this out. And then I really got a bug for video and videography and video editing, and wanted to follow that.
Yeah.
But then I graduated, and then I was going to transfer to Cal State Fullerton, and found out that they were kind of operating on some inferior equipment.
Oh.
And I was like, well, that's a drag.
Yeah.
I don't want to go backwards. So I decided I'm going to just take it more the photojournalism route. And so I went through that, kind of got my degree in photojournalism and communications. And then, of course, I graduate and, the whole newspaper industry is trying to determine what they're doing in the new digital age.
Right.
Many of the ones in the newspapers in the area in Orange County were kind of shifting to a freelancer mode. And I was just like, I need a steady paycheck. I'm the type, I need to know that I have money coming in, and it's not, so I didn't follow it. Somebody had a better plan for me, and I love what I do, but like you said, you still kind of get that itch to do some things. So, I mean, I find ways to incorporate it. Again, the podcast is a great way.
Yeah.
We do some video stuff at the chamber where I'll just, call a staff member in and say, let's do a video on this.
Right.
So
it's a great tool to have.
It is. It's a great opportunity for us to tell our story in a new and a different way. But also, like you said, kind of gives me an outlet to still be creative. The timeline to get some of these things done makes it a crunch with all the other things that I got going on. But But again, the passion for that creative side, I can't give it up.
Yeah, that's cool. And you still have a website because I creeped on it.
Yeah.
Lahodny, I love it.
Yeah, I downplay it a little bit. It's, again, it's a little bit of a passion of mine. Again, I was more of a landscape photographer by trade. I mean, again, where I grew up, that was kind of what I love to do.
And it's a beautiful subject, so I get it.
It is. You can't make a lot of money in it because, there people take pictures all over the place,
Right.
The portrait photography is a little bit more where the money is, but I was not about to be a wedding photographer, and
I couldn't do that either.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pressure too.
I did a couple weddings, and I did it more as favors for friends or family or whatever. But
I get that.
But yeah, I wasn't going on the wedding photography circuit.
Right. I think you made a good choice.
Yeah. I love my job. It's in a lot of ways it's much more fulfilling than photography. I love photography, but what I'm doing now is having such an impact on thousands of businesses as opposed to me, serving, couples here and there. And I love that.
Right.
But it's just taking it to a much bigger scale.
Right. So I do want to touch on that a little bit before we have to go here, but I want to talk about, your view of investing in the chamber and how it's much more than a ribbon cutting. Can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. There's been some narrative, and rightly so, because for the longest time, chambers were of that kind of were the ribbon cuttings, were the networking, were the this, were the that. But the chamber of the 21st century can't be that anymore. Right. You look in the community and you've got, other organizations that are kind of doing the networking part of it. Yep. And that's great. And we still provide networking opportunities, but they're not going to be your traditional things per se. Where the chamber sweet spot is really creating a strong local economy. And how do you do that? It's through participating, being an advocate for the business community with legislative issues. So whatever's going on in either Atlanta or Washington, D.C.,
right,
we're able to weigh in and say, hey, the business community is not cool with this because it's going to impact them in this way.
Right.
Or, you kind of check down the list, or this is important. We need to pass this because, they're struggling. They can't do a certain thing. So, whatever it is, the chamber is the perfect vehicle to be that advocate, because, we think about it, we're about 1,000 members right now. We're the voice of 1,000 businesses in the greater Augusta region.
That's incredible.
we're speaking on behalf of 1,000 member companies. And that carries a lot of weight with our legislators. So, for one company to go to a state representative and say, hey, this is a problem, that's one thing. But for the chamber to come and say, hey, look,
1,000 businesses.
We've got 1,000 businesses that say this is important and you need to look at this.
Right.
That carries a lot of weight. And it's a huge, it's a huge way for the chamber to actively kind of support the business community and take that thing that takes business owners away from them doing what they love best. It takes that off the plate for them so that we can be that person that says, you do what you do best, right? You go run your business. You go be a photographer. You go be whatever it is your business is, you go do that. We're going to protect you on the other side so that you can do what you love. To me, that's like, I don't know. I get passionate about that.
Yeah.
But that's where the chamber's sweet spot is. We're still about connecting people, Anybody can call me up at any time and say, do you know somebody over here? And I can say, absolutely. Let me set up a meeting between the two of you. We'll do that all day long too. Right. That's another part of our sweet spot. But really and going back to kind of what you were saying, investing, chamber membership, yes, there are tangible benefits, right? There are the events, there are the maybe discounts here or there or whatever. But it's the intangible that's really kind of the important part and the value of what the chamber's doing.
Right.
We're out there advocating for, T-SPLOS because we need to keep up with the infrastructure in our community so that we can continue to grow. If we're not growing, then, we're dying.
Right.
So there is no such thing as status quo or maintaining. We have to continue that growth. So kind of keeping up with some of those things, and our role is to make sure that we're making sure that those things get done.
Right.
And so that's kind of, again, that's why I call it an investment. You're investing in the community, and for a small fee or a larger fee, depending on whatever level you're comfortable with.
Right.
But to me, it's so valuable for people to invest in the community that their business is located in, so that we can go out into the community and tackle some of the problems that we're facing. We talked roughly about a workforce.
Right.
Workforce is a huge problem. We're starting to kind of peel back the onion layers and trying to find some of the root causes for the workforce problems. The narrative at first was the unemployment money was keeping people from the workforce. Well, that money's gone. What's keeping them from the workforce now? Right. The narrative became, well, maybe it's childcare, or maybe it's this or that. There's a couple different things we could talk about. I think there are some people that took that opportunity to retire. We had
or to chase their passion projects.
Many people, a lot of people started their own businesses.
Right.
Statistics show that there was a huge spike in people, opening up their business, taking out business licenses. So that's one avenue. You've got the baby boomer generation who's been hanging on in the workforce for a long time, and we knew it before the pandemic.
Right.
We knew that there was going to be, depending on who you talk to, what they call it, the silver tsunami, or, the great resignation, or, whatever. We knew it was coming. But I think the pandemic kind of flipped that switch and made it happen a little quicker than most people were expecting. So, there's a couple different things, but, we looked at childcare, and just for an example, we kind of uncovered a little, maybe a bright spot of a way that we can be impactful in that, people, there's such a long wait list for people to get their kids in preschool. And obviously, if your kids aren't in preschool or daycare, you can't go to work.
Right.
Or at least you can't go full time.
Right.
So, and what we found in talking to some of the preschools or the daycares is they're running at about 50% capacity because they can't find employees. So
it's an endless cycle.
It's kind of like a self-perpetuating, issue. So one of the things that we're looking at is how can we maybe help the childcare industry to recover, or kind of get over some of those hurdles, because you're talking about an industry that they're not paying an exorbitant amount of money to the people that work there. So they've got to up their salaries a little bit, and then the benefits, and then it's a tangled web of all these little things. So we're looking at some opportunities to kind of unpack some of that and tackle those issues so that we can get maybe some things rolling again. If we can get some more students in daycares, then more people can maybe get back into the workforce. And
right.
So, yeah, those are the types of things to me that it's like investing in the chamber is an investment into the community by us being able to have the means to solve some of these problems
and advocate on their behalf.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. So if someone wanted to become a member, what is the best way to facilitate that?
Yeah, I mean, probably the best way to get 24/7 kind of information is obviously our website.
All right.
ColumbiaCountyChamber.com.
Great.
There's membership information up there, but if not, just call the chamber, 706-651-0018. We're there. Daryl Butler's our membership relations manager. He's the best. He's great. He has got the personality to be in the chamber industry. He is.
He's a bundle of joy. He really is.
He is.
And he's going to listen to this and also love that I said that too.
Absolutely.
He's going to take that and run with it.
Yes, he is. He is. But we've got a great team of staff members that, Sabrina Griffin, our new vice president, she's on it, and she is driven. We have a goal to hit 1,000 members by the end of this year. We're within about single digit shot of that 1,000 member mark. So I think we're close. We have to keep up with the retention as well, but I think we're going to get it. So
that's fantastic. Well, kind of to round us out here, I like to ask all of my guests about their cowbell moment. So I'll explain what that means. So I'm sure you're familiar with the cowbell, more cowbell,
Will
SNL.
Ferrell.
I mean, it's just hilarious. It's the best.
Iconic.
It's iconic. So here at Alison South, whenever we do something great, whether it's big or small, any success, we ring the cowbell.
Yeah.
It's kind of our thing.
I love it.
So when you think back, it could be just your time here in Columbia County. It could be, in California over your whole life. What do you ring the cowbell for? Any sort of success that means the most to you?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sure there's a professional answer and a personal answer too.
There's definitely each. Yeah. And I get it because our podcast, we ask a kind of a very similar question, who's your biggest influence?
Right.
And I've started twisting the question a little bit because I'm like, because everybody was saying, well, my wife or my mom. Yes. Wife. And it's just like, okay, we're getting the same answer over and over again.
Right.
So I threw the curveball in there of like, outside of your family.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
You got this down, Russ.
So yeah, my personal answer would clearly be, my family.
Right.
My wife has been an absolute rock.
Kimberly's awesome.
She's moved for me twice. We moved up to Sacramento right after we got married. And then now we moved out here on a big trip.
When she was pregnant during a pandemic.
Yes.
Just going to hone in on that.
And we're still married.
You're doing great.
And we're still married.
I'm ringing the cowbell
for
that. I really am.
So, I mean, to me, that's a little bit of a victory.
It is. It is.
So I think from a personal standpoint, I just think, I was victorious in finding the right.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there's the cowbell. There's Will.
I'm just glad we don't have to stare at his belly the whole time.
Yes. FYI, Irvine High School graduate. So back where I started my chamber career. So we're tying it all back.
Here.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yes, but yeah. So Kimberly's probably my At first, I thought this was going to be a picture of Kimberly up here.
That is definitely not her. That's definitely not her.
That is definitely not her.
Oh.
But I would say from there, on a professional standpoint, I mean, I think coming in here to Columbia County, taking over the organization and kind of keeping it rolling, there could have been a lot of opportunities for things to slip a little bit. And I'm not saying I've done everything perfect, but during a pandemic, keeping the organization growing again,
right,
inching up on that 1,000-member mark, to me, I'm going to call that probably one of my cowbell moments for my career.
I would say so. Well, listen, I hope that you make it. We'll do everything we can to get you to that 1,000. So if you're thinking about being a member, you should join. And listen to Range of Influence on all of the platforms.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me in.
This means a lot. This was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Let's do it again.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.